Hello, Kenny. Welcome to episode 14.
Long-awaited 14, Rabbi Yisroel, great to see you. It's been a long, long time. We have a very, very special guest today. We have Erez Ben Saadon from Tura Estate Winery. I'm very excited about this one. It's a very brief thing before we bring Erez on. And Erez, thank you so much I know it's late there. It's now 2:15 in America and 9:15 in Israel. I know you're working all day, but Tura is a special winery. Tura represents the resurgence of the ancient vineyards of the Shomron, which were planted by our ancestors thousands of years ago. And Tura really embodies the spirit of modern Israel and a return to our homeland. So it's a very special treat for us. Vera, thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here as well.
So why don't I have so many questions I want to ask you. And I've written some of them down, which is unlike me, because this is usually just, we just roll with whatever's in our mind. But because you're such a special guest, I do have some questions I wanted to ask you, but we'll dive into the wine right away. You have a very interesting story, and we're going to touch on a lot of this, I hope. But how did you and your husband, Erez, decide to establish in the Shomron? Why did you decide to go where you are? And how has that worked out for you? Tell us a little bit about the history of Tura.
So actually, we married almost 30 years ago. And after the wedding, we moved to Mount Gerizim. It was a small community with like maybe 40 families really in the beginning. It was a long time ago. And Erez said that if we will walk with agriculture and plant vineyards, maybe it's a good idea because here in Judah and Samaria, people live in a half a dunam, but if you have agriculture, you can have thousands of dunams, so you can do much more to settle the land. So we had no experience, but he really believed that that's the right thing to do. And also somebody told us that maybe vineyards is a good idea because it's a high mountain, very cool weather. So we tried and we planted the vineyards, let's say 26 years ago. We wait for Orla in Etarava, it's like 4 years. And then we began sold the grapes to a big winery in Israel. But because of politics, unfortunately, that winery decided stop buying our grapes. And we were a young couple, all our money is invested in the land. And we decided to open a winery. We had no other chance. And in '03, we opened a Tura winery in Rechelim with 1,200 bottles only. It's like 4 barrels. Today, we're already producing 250,000 bottles a year. I know in the States, people are not count in bottles, but in cases, but here in Israel, we count by bottles. So it's big.
So that's a large winery in any place. I think I think Tura, the way I look at it at least, is a medium-sized winery, continuously growing, but still has the boutique touch to it.
Right.
Do you? Yeah, well, that's
because
important.
if you compare to in Israel, we have like around 400 wineries. You have like 10 very big wineries of millions of bottles, like the Golan Heights, like Balkan, and so on. And then you have many in the middle that have produced between 100,000 bottles to some hundreds. And then you have more that are smaller. So
how many
we're
bottles?
somewhere in between.
How many bottles did you produce last year?
200,000. So now this year will be B'ezrat Hashem. We just began the harvest 1 week ago. So this year will be 250,000 bottles.
I know that you started. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you have to continuously, since you are continuing to grow, and I know I read something recently and that number was lower, maybe half of this. Are you finding the ability to grow in the current location you're in and then you can expand, or?
So actually, we just planted more in the last weeks. Our idea is to plant more and more so we can settle the land. Where Jews are planting, you know it's yours. If not, other people will live there. So that's our mission. It's not every time easy. We had terror attacks, we have bombs of terror, many stories I can tell you about that, but that's the idea. And the winery, we are now building a new building in the interest of the community. So the plan is to grow, but in one condition, to keep the quality. Because if you grow and the quality drops down, that's not the idea. So if we can do both, we will be more than happy to do that.
What varieties are you currently growing, and how has that changed over the last 20 years? Or has it stayed the same?
So we have more than 14 different varieties. You know, Cabernet, Merlot, Shiraz, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Malbec, Petit Verdot, uh, more. I don't
Right.
have all of them in mind, but many. And in the last years, now we have the Ridge. It's a wine of Dulceto Marcellan. So these are another two interesting varieties. These varieties are more gentle, more fruity. These are for people who are in the beginning of the experience of drinking wine, or in the Israeli summer, we say it's a red wine for the Israeli summer, so it's less heavy. So I think I mentioned 10, more or less, so we have more. But these are too new because we understand the people in Israel, many of them are in the beginning of the wine experience, so they need something less heavy, more
Something
drinkable.
something more entry level.
Right, that's the entry level.
So, oh, please, Kenny.
No, go ahead.
There's so many questions. We both have so many questions for you, and so
I'm here.
it's very exciting. Is Tura really just estate wine? Like all of the grapes, you grow all the grapes that you use. You don't use any
Yes,
other
of course,
grapes.
a very important point you mentioned. So in France, you have many estate wineries, but in Israel, not. You have only few. We are one of them. So it means we grow, produce, and sell. We grow all our grapes. We also sell to other wineries in Israel. The best we use to a winery. And then we produce and sell ourselves the wine. So today was all the day in the street, in the field to try and look for new stores. Of course, we have employees, but it means we do everything under our supervision.
What percentage of the wines are imported to the United States, and what percentage stay in Israel and elsewhere?
So let's say we export 50%. Much of it is to the States, but I will tell you a secret. 70% of the Israeli wines are sold in New York that are export. So that's the most of it. You people
We're not
know how
shocked.
to buy wine. Every time I'm kidding that here in Israel, when we are standing on a Friday in a wine store, people are thinking what bottle to buy, and then they go with one bottle. In the States, they come in like with a big carry, like the carry of the supermarket, and they buy a mountain of mountain peaks. So that's a big difference than in Israel. Also, in
That's
Europe,
where
it's
the
not the
name comes
same.
from, Mountain Peak. Yes. That's
Yes.
we do everything big in America. But of course, Rabbi Bernath is in Canada, which I'm not going to make fun of right now, but we'll get to that later.
They have
Um,
potential.
they do have potential. They have
You buy a
potential. They
lot of
are part of
Tura
me.
wine.
Rabbi Bernath himself, and in Canada, I know they drink a lot of Tura wine there. I think that's a great point that it's an estate winery. There's not even in America, there's not so many kosher estate wineries. So it's a very cool thing that you're doing there. And I think that especially how you came about it, and you touched on it, but you basically started, and correct me if I'm mistaken, you basically started making wine because you had to, because I think
Right.
you set out, as you said, you set out starting to grow grapes for wineries. And when because of political reasons, because you're located in the Shomron, and that can cause issues with some people that are ill-informed. I'll put it that way. That you had to start making wine yourself, and that's actually that continues what I touched on at the beginning, also, in that the pioneering spirit that you and Erez have shown since you started Tura.
Right. So it was on purpose. It was not in our plans. My parents are physiotherapists, so they don't work with agriculture. And my in-laws are, she is a nurse and he is working with electricity, so no background. Only my grandfather was selling vegetables before the Holocaust, but that's more or less what we know about agriculture. So we really did that because we believed in 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 the Shomron and that we need to settle the land. And Hashem did the rest. He shows that this land is blessed, this mountain is blessed. And I can tell you that the first one got the first medal. And many times uh, when I meet people from France, winemakers, they say, "How can that be? It took us for us 400 years until people realized we have a medal and it was good wine. So how you did it with your first bottle?" So I'm saying that we did our best, but actually there is a special blessing on that mountain. And even more than that, because if you read in the Bible, Jeremiah, you see that he wrote, "Ot titi kramim b'arei Shomron." So it was a promise that after people went to exile, God promised them that one day they should come back to this land, the land of Israel, plant vineyards and produce wine again. So we had the honor to do that after so 2000 so many years, 2000 years. So we had no knowledge. We came very young. We did what we believe we need to do, and the rest was Hashem. So until today, it's a big miracle what's going on. There is a war in Israel. No employees. My kids were in Gaza. My son-in-law is in Gaza right now. So it's very challenging to be a Jew. That's I was not born as a Jewish kid, but to choose to be Jewish and to be Jewish is, for years I'm saying it's not easy. It's even dangerous. But still, we know that that's what we need to do. So we do, and we do our best, and Hashem is doing the rest.
How did you learn to make wine? I heard that you
Uh,
first planted apple trees.
Right. So after the wedding, we first planted apple trees, organic apple trees. That's right. And right after that, we planted the vineyards because there was a person who said, "I guess it's a good location for vineyards because it's very high." So imagine that mountain was waiting for 2,000 years until we planted again and figure it out that it's one of the best mountains for Merlot grapes in Israel, if not the best one.
So you mentioned your grandfather, and the question I've been waiting to ask you is a very interesting one. Is your personal story? I've read it many times, and every time I feel like I learn a new piece because it's so layered and so fascinating. I would love to hear you tell our listeners your story, your history, and the history of your family.
So I'm myself still figure out more and more details with every year. So I'm 47. I was born in Holland to a non-Jewish mother and Jewish father. My parents were students. They were learning in a theology school. They learned about Buddha. And when they finished learning, they asked the teacher why you don't teach Judaism. And he said he don't know how to teach it. He had no idea. So they began to ask other people. We made aliyah to Israel, me, my sister, and my parents. And like I mentioned, my father was Jewish, so he had an aunt that was living in Israel. So they came here. They began to learn, and my mother converted with me and my sister by the Rabbi Goren himself. He was the chief rabbi of Tzahal, of IDF, in the Six-Day War, the rabbi with the shofar in the picture, the famous picture. So it was not easy in those days, but and then we lived in Jerusalem in a Haredi community. And then when I was 12, around bat mitzvah, I told my parents I need something a little bit more open mind. We had a dog. We came from Holland. And they began look where we can live, and they came to Yehuda and Shomron. So Kochav Shach, they live there until today. It's like half an hour from here, and next to the Jordan Valley. and they're the parents. Slicha, sorry, they're the in-law, the no neighbors of my in-laws that made a aliyah from Morocco and Iran. So that's how I met Erez. I was 15. He was almost 18. I wrote him a letter if he wants to be my boyfriend, to be honest. And that's how we began a relationship that was almost 4 years. He went to the IDF, he was in Lebanon serving, and every 2 weeks we were in touch. That was like that almost 4 years. And then we got married in the end. And Baruch Hashem, we are young. We have 5 children, 4 grandchildren, Baruch Hashem. Yes, a lot of work in these 30 years.
It's amazing. Any of your children work for the winery?
Okay, so please remind me, I didn't talk about all my background, but I will
I know
first
that
talk about my kids.
I was
So
gonna
we have,
ask you privately. I'm like, maybe you didn't want to talk about all your background
no,
because
no,
there's
I
a lot
want,
of
but
you are very.
my kids are first. So we have 5 children. My oldest is 28. She's a mother of 3. They live in Ofra. It's a community half an hour from here as well. Then we have David. He is 26. He was serving for many years in the army. And then he had a break and went to travel around the world. And after a few months, 7 October happened and he ran back. He was here 8 October. He was already fighting. He was in Gaza, an officer in Shaket Givati. He lost more than 50 friends. He himself was, like, he had miracles, big nisim. He was almost injured. Like, I can tell you how many RPGs he got. So that's we're very grateful for that. And 2 months ago, he left Gaza and he began work with us. So Baruch Hashem, we don't have enough employees this time. It's very complicated in Israel because we don't give our work. And many people are still serving in the IDF. So he is with us and that's a big help. Then we have Shachar. She is 23. She is also an officer in the Air Force, and she gave birth 2 months ago, and her husband is in Gaza now. So that's Israel these days, not easy so she is living with us with the new baby. Then we have Jonathan Karmi. Karmi is my vineyard because he was born during the harvest. He is 20 almost. In the harvest, he will be 20, so it's soon. Bezrat Hashem, September. And he is in a special commando unit. He was only 8 months in the army, and they asked him to go into Gaza. He lost his 3 best friends and his officer. He was in the front. Hamas made a video of that, and we don't know how he got outside. He said, Mommy, he was laughing and shooting at me from 3 meters, 40 bullets. He got it into his, whatever, in his gun, all over, but he was not injured. So that's also a big, big miracle, and we are grateful for that as well. And he is training and working very hard. And he's also dealing with what happened. He saw everything, and we as parents in Israel needs to deal with that, and it's not easy at all. Then we have Halel. She's 12. She just had a bat mitzvah 2 months ago, and I can tell you that after 7 October, what happened? 2 weeks after, I said I need to focus on something good. If not, I will get crazy because 2 of my kids were there, 2 of my son-in-laws, and I began to prepare the bat mitzvah. So everybody was not available. Everything was closed, but I did my best. I was the only one who did something like that. And 2 months ago, I said a big shechianu on that bat mitzvah with all my kids around us was a big, big miracle. And Baruch Hashem, everybody is okay and safe, and that's not obvious as well. So that's a little bit about the situation as a mother in Israel these days. So three of my kids, one of my son-in-law, it's 4 or 5, that the little one is 12, so she is not relevant for now. A little bit about my history. So my grandmother from the Jewish side, because I told you I was born to a Jewish father and a not Jewish mother. So the mother of my father, she of course was Jewish. She was hiding during the Holocaust. Good people took care about her. She had a long story and complicated, but to make it short, she wrote a diary during the Holocaust, and I was very proud to get it when I was 12. And when my oldest was 12, Ayala, we gave it to her on the bat mitzvah. She was very proud to get it. And together we went to Yad Vashem, the Museum of the Holocaust, and we put there for the remembership for the people in the world. But from the Najri side of my family, I had relatives, including the mother of my mother, that helped the Nazis during the war. And we believe again that a part of what we're doing today is the best Jewish answer we can give. Not everybody can say he choose to be Jewish, choose to live in Israel, choose to live in Judah and Samaria and work in agriculture. I think that's how we give our Jewish answer for that. I can tell you that a year ago, I had the honor to light the torch in Israel in the Israel Independence Day for 75 years of Israel exists. For years, my mother said, please don't. She didn't know the history about her mother, by the way, until I was 40. And then she figured that out. She told it to me. And she said, please don't talk about it. She was very shy. And I said, Mommy, look, it's not your fault. You did your best. You joined the Jewish people, like you did your best. Look, your kids, your grandkids, look, everything is so good. I will tell your story. I will share it. And I promise you, one day you will be very proud. And when I light the torch, she was sitting next to me, like in the front. And I know it was that moment I was waiting for. And she was like, she owns it. She was like very happy, proud, and everything together. So Baruch Hashem, everything take time, but if you work hard in the end, you sacrifice, you will see it's worth it.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Wow.
And it's like something you said at the end touched me, I think, something I notice always about Megillat Esther is that and the rabbi could speak more about this, but is that these things didn't happen one after another. They happened over a long period of time. When you see them when you look back over history and you see that, you see the hand of God. And I think that's very clear in your story.
I feel it every day. I can tell you really every day. Even today when I was outside in the field there, my cell rep, he said every time they're not there, there is no parking. I said, I promised you, they will be there and will be parking. So Hashem is also in the details, not only, but I agree that a story like our story is generations, 3 generations, even 4 now. And Baruch Hashem, you see my kids, you can't imagine. And it's a long process and a long journey, but in the end, you can be very proud to see the results.
Wow.
I think it's a very symbolic thing that the state of Israel chose you to light the torch for the 75th anniversary. And I can imagine the pride your mother had in seeing that moment.
So the subject was pioneers. So I can tell you we are pioneers in the Shomron. And I don't think it was it was not Veret, it was the story of the people in Samaria that sacrificed so many life, money, power. You can't imagine how much. And to buy a bottle of Tura today is much more than a bottle of wine. It's the prophecies that became alive. It's to give people here work, an opportunity to continue, to be here, to stay here, to settle the land, and to understand the whole story of the Jewish people. Because in the end, it's not my story. I didn't choose the story. The story chose me. So there is a purpose, and I guess it's one of it. To see that also today we have a mission, and unfortunately, it's unfortunately because we are on a mission as Jewish people. So many from the beginning. It's our life, And also today, when my kids are fighting, a part of it why I'm sad is because I know that it will not end. And I realize that to be Jewish um, is to sacrifice. It's a mission. It will not end after Gaza, after Lebanon. It will be another Paro or another Aman or another Ahmadinejad. It's not matter what's the name. In the world, you have two power kochot. How you say that? You have the good and you have the evil. And
Light
we
and
are the
dark, good
Jewish
and
people
evil.
need to bring light and to fight the evil. And that's our purpose. It's not an easy job.
I'm speechless. I'm absolutely speechless. I want to talk a little bit about the wine itself because we've interviewed some winemakers here, and often winemakers learn study in Bordeaux or they study at UC Davis. Uh, your I consider, for example, your Mountain Peak 2017 one of the best bottles of kosher wine in Israel. I understand that you don't have some of the background that some of the other winemakers have. And so I'm curious, obviously you can say, oh, it's the region and it's the climate and it's, the what's the secret?
I told you it's Opti Tikramim Shomron. It's a promise. It's not me. We do our best. My husband is working very hard on the details as a winemaker. But in the end, it's not logical. The result we have in so short time, it's not realistic. So we know, we feel it's more than that. By the way, try the Mountain Peak 18. It's much better. I think it's the best Mountain Peak we had. And in Israel, it's out of stock for a long time. But in the States, you can still find it.
Okay.
I agree. The 18. Here's a question I have for you. And Tura Estate is located in the Shomron, and I know that you've dealt firsthand with boycotts and with terrorism. But on the other hand, and like you mentioned about the good and the evil in the world, on the other hand, after following the Abraham Accords, I know that Tura was one of the first, if not the first, wines brought to the United Arab Emirates and sold there. And I think that you went there, if I'm
I
right.
went there twice. Yeah, after the peace process, we went there. It was an amazing experience. I can't tell you, as a person that lives around, surrounded by Arabs that I'm afraid of, it was
Right.
a big difference. They hosted, they were so nice, really. Um, Again, it was like a fairy tale. Um, they have like many tours. They're not drinking wine. They're not allowed
Right.
to, but they have like 20 millions uh, tourists a year. So they drink a lot of wine. Now, fortunately, because of the war, it's a problem again. But I guess it will pass like everything else, Bezat Hashem. It was a very nice experience. And when I came back, was there for like 4 days. I came back, I told my husband, look, Sunday we're going again with the kids to show them there are people that speaking Arabic and that are nice. I really needed them to feel that there is something like that. And we
Right.
did it, and it was the best ever. So they saw the people with the burqa, the women, and they
Amazing.
were like kind, and it was so good. It was very good.
That's amazing.
Mm.
Israel, did you know about that?
I did not know about that. I'm amazed.
Yeah, I remember.
It was funny, very funny.
Well, it's amazing how fast these things can change, and please God, it should be peace soon, and we should have. But yes, we know that while we're in exile, a lot of these things will continue, but that's what can be, right? And I thought that was very cool to see you there and representing the Shomron, really, like you said, and representing the Jewish people. I thought that was very cool. I think also that I've seen you written up at least from maybe the Christian Friends of Israel. I think has an association with you. Do they come visit Tura? Do you have an association with that? And can you talk
So
about that?
years ago, they helped us in the vineyards, and when COVID hit. There
Uh-huh.
were no people, no tourists. So we needed to find a solution for that. So we bought a big machine that helped us to harvest the vineyard with a special equipment that's it's the best. Now all the wineries in Israel are changing to that because it's faster and much better quality because it's very important when from the moment you harvest to come as fast as soon as possible to the winery. So that's a machine that's doing it very good in very high quality and standards. So
Right.
few of them are still happening, but most of them are not here anymore.
Right. So it's mostly you're saying you've replaced a lot of the people that came to work, I guess, and now that are not able with this machine. You're saying, and that I
Right.
guess will allow you also to do more and faster as well.
The most important is the fast,
Yeah.
how fast it is. Also, the Thai people we had run away after
Right.
September, after October. Many of them were killed in Gaza, so
Right.
the Thai government paid them to leave. Now some of them came back, but that was also a big, big problem in Israel. It still is, actually.
Something I noticed when I went on the website this morning that I found really beautiful also is the first picture you see on the top of the Tura website is Erez in his talit and tefillin
I love
in the
that.
vineyard,
I saw
and
that as
it's
well.
just
Yeah.
I think it's such the overarching theme is the way I would say this. And if I was writing this piece up, I would focus on this is the connection to God, to Hashem, the connection to the land, the connection to the Shomron, the return of the people to the land, and the rebirth of the vineyards. And it's like, and I thought that picture was such a beautiful encapsulation of everything that you stand for.
Right. Yeah, it's not there by mistake. Of course not.
Imagine. I can imagine. You know, I ran into, I think it's your uncle and your nephew. I happened to be visiting my brother, and I'm in Florida, and I spoke to him, and it actually it kind of got the chains moving in my head that why have I not had Veridon yet? Why have we not had Veridon yet? And but he's down here, and I think, and I saw him, and I saw you. I'll get to my point. My point is that I know how hard Tura works in getting their wines around the world, and I see that. And there are other wineries, of course, that I won't mention that I think make very nice wine. But a lot of wines make nice wine. But Tura makes great wine, but also works very hard at getting their name out there, at getting at showing up at shows, at in PR, so to speak, and it's very noticeable. And I think that's why also that a lot of people continue to learn about you.
So
I
thank you. It's
didn't,
good to know that you work and there are results for that. Next week I will be with Hashem in Florida as well on the same reason, to knock on the doors, to open what we can, new stores, that people will know the brand, me, the wines. We do some events, and then I'm going to Texas. It's not easy to leave my kids in this situation in Israel for 2 weeks, but it's a part of my life, and we need to do that. If we don't do that, to deal with that from far away, that's it's not the same. So we need to go to the field and to meet the people in person and to do our best, and Bezrat Hashem.
is
Uh,
the Texas connection? I happened to be standing next to you when you were speaking to someone from Texas at the recent wine show in December. And is the Texas are most of the Texas buyers? This is a guess, and I have no idea. Are a lot of the Texas buyers Christians, or is it mostly Jewish people buying wines in Texas?
So to be honest, it will be my first time in Texas. I've
Wow.
been a few times in Florida and other states and so on, but Texas will be my first time. I guess you're right, but until I'm not there to see what are the wines, the stalls,
Right,
who are the
right.
owners, I have no idea. So
I've
I
never
will
been to
let
Texas,
you
so I
know.
don't. I've never even been there.
It's a
It's
huge
just
place, so yeah.
yes, it is. It's such a you realize how big it is coming from Israel too, how big a place like Texas is. But
Yes.
um, it's really amazing what you're doing. I think it's such a fascinating story. combined with your life. Erez, I think you said his heritage is Persian and Moroccan. Is that correct?
Right. He is
And
half.
his family now is in Israel,
His
or
parents are, of course, living also in Kochav Shachar. They're
uh,
the neighbors of my parents, and that's how we met. He is half Persian, half from Morocco,
so
but he
real.
was born in Israel.
He was right. He's a Sabra, as they say.
Yes, he is.
Well, you passed for one too.
Yes.
You mentioned the Marzalan and the Dolcetto and how amazing the Merlot is. But for somebody who doesn't know about Tura wine, which some of our listeners don't know about Tura wine, what would you say is an entry level, like a good bottle that they should buy to get to know Tura?
So I think the Heartland is a good bottle. He gives you an idea of our entry level. It's a blend of Cab, Merlot, Petit Verdot. It was for 10 months, 12 months in the oak. He will give you an idea of what we can do, what we're doing. And the Heartland is also not by mistake the name. It's like because we're in the heartland of Israel, and when people take the bottle with them to their home in Israel or outside the country, they began to talk. Where is the heartland? Why heartland? And that's what we trying to do. And then we invite people to come visit. So who hear us, we are waiting for tourists now more than ever. I've almost forgot my English in the last 10 months, and no tourists are in Israel. So we're waiting for peace to come, Bezrat Hashem, and all of you coming visit. And the Heartland is a good bottle that you can get an idea of what we're doing.
And especially this time of year, people like whites and rosés. Which one of your whites and
We
rosés?
have a very unique rosé. The rosé is a semi-dry. Most of the rosés around the world are dry. So we on purpose did it semi-dry because we believe it adds something to the wine. So it has a very nice color. Also, the bottle itself is like a flower, like a rose. Aromas of passion fruit, uh, grapefruit, really, really good. Chill it, drink it, and the beach in Florida is the best.
And so,
I
and,
will
and
say that was a bottle that particularly stood out to me. That rosé specifically stood out to me as being very unique. And I'm not a huge rosé fan, but I really enjoyed that. And I was going to ask you about that bottle and why that shape was chosen. So thank you for
Mhm.
answering my question.
But
Right.
it's interesting that it's a semi-dry because it's a Cabernet and Cabernet Franc, right? It's a Merlot as well. So how do you make it a semi-dry?
Okay, that's hold the Torah on one leg. But let's say we are stopping the process when we chill the vat. So the yeast are killed and we kill the yeast and then we still keep the sugar that's natural in the grape. And that's why it's a little bit sweet
Yeah, I
still.
noticed
By
that.
the way, Bezrat Hashem, 6th September, I will do wine tasting in the Miami Beach, Florida, in the Grove. So who wants to come taste the rosé? It's an opportunity. I will be there with Hashem.
I'm just missing you.
Me
You
too.
can stay.
I just left as
So
well.
so Vered, where can Americans and Canadians, I guess Yisrael can answer, but where can Americans find your wines?
So Canada is Simcha wine is very
Yeah.
easy. Um, in the States, you can go on kosherwine.com, look for Tura, and you will see the mountain peak, the Cap, the Heartland, the Rosé. We have one white, the Chardonnay, new in the States, and one is on the way to Sauvignon Blanc. So look for it and grab it because it's very limited, both whites because it's new. But all the rest you can find on kosherwine.com. Also, magnums before the holidays that are coming soon. You can find them there. And of course, we can ship it from here, but it will be not cheap. And come to Israel, take them with you. That's also an opportunity, of course.
That's the best way.
Yeah.
And if you want to go in my website, www.turwani.com, you will find sell points. You can go and put your address, and you will see what's close to you. So that's also an
So
option.
we can't get the snow. I just actually bought a bottle of snow in Israel a few weeks ago, and
No,
you
it
can't
was.
get it in the
It's
States.
not available in the States.
Oh
Not
wow,
yet.
I love Viognier, so I saw it in the store, and I love Tura, and I said, wow, I want to try that. It was great. It was really great.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, it was really special to have you here, and encourage everyone to check out Tura's wines on turawinery.com, or to follow the places that Vered mentioned where you can buy them, and to visit, most importantly, to visit Israel, visit now more than ever.
Right.
I hope Ezrat Hashem to be there myself in the next few months, and I hope to, I'll
Please
put
come
it down
visit.
now, a reservation to come visit you guys and see firsthand how everything is done there. But thank you so much I know it's late there. I know you're tired. I know how busy your world is right now, but thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you very much. And again, asking the people, please buy Israeli wines. Sorry, that's what give us the opportunity to continue. These days in Israel, people are sad they're not buying enough wine. They're buying a lot of alcohol to get drunk, but not so much wine. So we need you guys to buy wines, be happy, and think about us, and raise a glass for Israel and for Tura Winery. Thank you very much for that, for the opportunity, and see you soon again, all of you.
See you soon.
Thank you, B'savat Tavot. Have a good day,
Amen.
and bye-bye.